I think the best thing we can do is to work together to try to seek a common agenda. We've got to govern. We've got to put politics aside when the 105th Congress starts, and I pledge to do that with our Minority Leader, Trent Lott.
I pledge to the Minority Leader, Tom Daschle, that as Majority Leader we will continue that effort to do what is right for our country.
Senators Trent Lott and Tom Daschle on this program nearly 15 years ago, just before the 1996 elections. Fierce partisans to be sure, but happier warriors than the lawmakers on Capitol Hill today. This week, with tempers flaring, the rhetoric has boiled over. Exhibit A, the war of words between two Florida Congress members, Republican Allen West and Democrat Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Wasserman Schultz fired the first shot on the House floor, criticizing West for supporting a debt deal that would cut Medicare. West's response, a furious email to his colleague when he said, "You are the most vile, unprofessional and despicable member of the U.S. House of Representatives. You've proven repeatedly that you are not a lady and therefore shall not be afforded due respect from me." So how does Washington move past this partisan rancor? Joining me with some answers are those two former Senate Majority Leaders, Tom Daschle and Trent Lott. A little grayer, but still smiling, still sitting together.
Just a little. That's right.
So what is it? Is it a nostalgia for a past that never was? Is it brinksmanship as usual? Or is there a different tone in today's Washington, Senator Lott?
Well, some people ask me, how did we make it work when President Clinton was president and the Republicans were in charge of both the House and the Senate? First of all, we did have both bodies, and that it is more difficult if you have one body of the Congress of one party and the other of another party. But it was never that easy. When we were trying to get welfare reform and tax cuts, actually, and balanced budget and a lot of other issues, Tom and I went through things like 9/11, the anthrax, impeachment trial. All those were extremely difficult. So first, my main point would be, it was difficult then, too, more than we realized. Tom and I became good friends through it all.
So how did you? How did you, Senator Daschle?
Well, Christiane, I think, first of all, Trent's exactly right. This is not new. I mean, we had the famous caning incident about 120 years ago where a House member came over and beat the life out of a senator in the name of an issue that they both cared about a lot. So there have been fights and squabbles and bitter partisanship and name-calling all through history. What happens sometimes is leaders will come together and find the common ground required to govern. You've got to, at some point, put governance ahead of ideology. And when that happens, we get the best result of good leadership in America.
Do you think President Obama has done enough of that, really building personal relationships like you used to do in your time? Do you think he has?
Well, I think it's a difficult time right now. I think there are different personalities, and every time you have a change, it takes a while to develop relationships. Trent and I have a far different relationship today than we had 30 years ago when we started. But you develop that relationship over time, and a lot of these personalities, these leaders are new. So there isn't the trust, there isn't the comity, there isn't the kind of appreciation for relationship building yet that will come over time.
But Tom and I had some basic rules. We agreed we wouldn't surprise each other, and we would try to advise each other what the schedule was going to be, and both of us stuck to that pretty well. Every now and then we'd make a mistake, but I was willing to say, "Hey, Tom, I'm sorry, I didn't do that one right." But I want to say this too. I think that probably there's more of a relationship and communication between Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell. A lot of people realize, and you've seen, whether you agree with what they're doing or not, in the last week they've been talking about, okay, what do we do if we do have to go to a fallback final plan? And they've been quietly communicating and working on that.
The Tea Party freshmen, upon whom all of this is being laid, really, who say compromise is a dirty word, are they complicating the picture?
Well, when you're a new member, you have very strong feelings. I remember when I first came to the House, my attitude was I wanted it my way or not at all. And over the years, I found out that if you take that attitude, what you get is nothing. You got to be prepared to do some compromising. It's not a dirty word. It's part of the legislative process. When you've got in the Senate 100 United States senators from different regions, different philosophies and backgrounds, you have to find some common ground. It's never easy. And so I don't lay the blame on these new members. I do think, though, we're dealing with much more difficult times. During the Reagan years, when we had a big budget reduction, it was $60 billion. When we had the big agreement with Clinton, again, we were talking about billions. They're talking trillions now.
So it's
and
huge.
It's huge, and it touches everything, defense and taxes, entitlement, discretionary spending, and trying to get the right blend and get a result is not easy.
Let me ask you about presidential clout. President Obama made it, a big deal in his press conference about not having his phone call returned. I mean, is that odd? Can you imagine a president calling Congress and not getting his call returned?
Well, I have to say, I think I can recall times in the past where if you don't have anything you can say to the president, you're going to wait until you've got a constructive comment to make. And I don't think he didn't get the call. He didn't get the call in the time he expected. But they're all in this together. They realize that. Now they're bumping up against a real deadline. It may be 4 o'clock this afternoon. It may be next August 2nd. But they know they've got a shorter and shorter time frame. So those calls are going to get returned, I guarantee you.
And quickly, one-word answers. Do you think they will get this deal? Will they raise the debt ceiling?
I think they will, and I think we'll see something this afternoon, and I think next week they'll lay out a process that will get the results. So yeah, I think they'll get it.
I agree with that. I think that we know the consequences of failure here are just too great, and all sides know that, and I think they're going to come to an agreement sometime shortly.
Thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.